Nation. I'm Trey Strelko. Welcome into the Sons of UCF Live. 14 days from kickoff. Adam, Mike, hello.
Greetings, Trace. We're getting so close, man. I can't wait for these next 14 days to just fly by. I'm sure they're not going to fly by, but I cannot wait for these next 14 days. And then we have 4 months full of football. Nothing better.
It feels like it's been forever since we played a football game, since we walked out of that stadium in Tampa, glorious over the Gators. Finally, we're almost there, man. Almost 2 more weeks. I can't wait.
Speaking of glorious over the Gators, just ending now. Women's soccer, 3 second-half goals. The Knights beat the Gators in the season opener for UCF women's soccer. Head coach Tiffany Roberts-Zahedek with her 100th win as head coach of the Knights. Knights get off to a 1-0 start on the season, and just like beating the Gators in the Gasparilla Bowl, how sweet it is.
Always good to get a victory to start the season. Even better to get it against the team in the States. Nice bragging rights. And if you want more on women's soccer, Trace, I think there might be a little YouTube channel, Sons UCF. We have a feature on the team and sort of what to expect. So good to be in the win column. Always good to beat the Gators.
3-0 in soccer. What is the equivalent of that in football? It's like 72-0. That's a blowout.
Well, unless you give it like 7 points, for touchdown, so like 21-0. But I like yours better. Next, the other breaking news this afternoon. Boom, with a question mark. A Cows quarterback possibly joining the Knights. Timmy McClain, who entered the transfer portal after not being chosen as starter over in Tampa. Rumored to be coming to UCF, being reported by various outlets. What do you think of this, guys? The Sanford Seminole High School product possibly joining the Knights.
Yeah, we talked last year. I thought he was a solid quarterback. I thought he was a good player. We saw him play, obviously, in Orlando. He played well. So certainly some talent there.
Nearly won that game, right?
Certainly some talent there. Now, in our quarterback room with our situation, I think that's what's going to be interesting. I suspect he's going to have to redshirt this season just based on timing of transfer. So in reality, he's a 2023 quarterback. You think about the quarterbacks we have, everybody in the room now, technically speaking, is eligible to come back and play again next year. Plus, we add in a recruit, Dylan Risk from Colonel Gibbons. So crowded quarterback room. What does this mean for the future? I don't know. It always does feel good, though, to A, take something from the Cows, and B, listen, Gus is not he's not a dimwit upstairs, Trace. I'll put it this way. This is a kid locally from Orlando. One of the knocks we had on Heupel was he did not recruit Orlando appropriately. We lost Timmy and Jimmy both to the Cows. And this could be a little bit of Gus saying, hey, you know what? Let me continue to shore up that hometown heroes philosophy. Let me bring this kid home. Let me, maybe Jimmy wants to come with him. Maybe other players want to come with him. So I think there's a twofold move. One, he's got talent. He's on the squad. You never know what'll happen. And 2, locks up that Orlando area that Gus has been craving to do so.
At the very least, it gives us a lot of inside information for that game in Tampa at the end of the year, right? He's got to know the whole playbook. He's got to know all their signals.
What inside info do you need? Like 3 plays? I mean, what kind of inside info do you need?
We need as much as we can so we can beat them by worse than 64-12. I want to know every single play that they're running ahead of time. Timmy is the guy that's going to give us all that info. I think it's a good pickup. He's got talent, obviously. McClain, is he a top 5 McClain? I know John McClain for sure. I can't think off the top of my head the other 4 McClains.
Are we ready to embrace a former Cow, though? Is that Night Nation? We ready to? It certainly has rankled.
What's a cow? Always a cow?
Cow family. Oh, that there.
Has that ever happened? Have we? I know we've had a few guys leave us to go to the Cows. Have we ever taken a Cow?
Somewhere along the line we have.
Cossack advisor, if you're out there somewhere, I'm sure you have the answer to this question. Have we ever transferred in a Cow?
Somewhere along the line we have. None that are coming to mind right off the top. But interesting, that fence around Central Florida, Gus building it, and that a big move if it comes to fruition, reeling in the former South Florida quarterback. Also big news, 14 days out from the opener in the Bounce House. Mike, I know this caught your eye. I saw the posts on social media. Changes in the Bounce House. Alcohol sold stadium-wide now. Get your gluten-free hot dogs, maybe not in every section, and the boozy popsicles, which should become a staple of our tailgates.
Yeah, I've never heard of boozy popsicles before. That sounds interesting. Sounds refreshing. On a hot day, early September, you can cool down and get drunk at the same time. That sounds fun. Hot dogs, I didn't see them there listed at the top of the cabana. Maybe there's still time. There's not a lot of work that needs to be put in to get that done, I don't think. Overall,
should it happen, this is going to be all because of you.
If it happens, yeah, it's definitely because of me. If it doesn't happen, obviously it just shows that they don't care anything that I think. But alcohol around the whole stadium, I guess it's fun for everybody else. I'm sure that should help with ticket sales, you would think.
Two strong options there. The boozy popsicle seems like a lot of work. I feel like if I want to drink, I want to drink. I don't want to melt my drink for like 40 minutes to enjoy it. I did see seltzer is now being publicized essentially throughout the cabana. Last year we had some sort of a weird, funky Buddha situation. I'm gonna need some of those White Claws up there, Trace. But listen. Everyone's going to alcohol in stadium. UCF is not the only school that's kind of making this change. I saw Alabama did the same thing. Obviously, hopefully it's done responsibly. We don't need to get rowdy and have a bunch of fights and a bunch of other nonsense take place.
That's going to happen.
Of course. But Timo's trying to make some revenue. And here's a good way to do it. Lonely Bumblebee looking for a way to shotgun a popsicle is fantastic.
A couple of black guys, it might be the price to pay to make some more money at the stadium. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to take us back to the old Citrus Bowl days. I remember when we were sitting there next to the student sections, I used to see fights all the time at those games. So it's going to happen again. It's just the price you pay, I guess.
14 days out, 379 season tickets left. Practice number 14 in Shells this Thursday. Media with the opportunity to talk with center Matt Lee and safety Quadra Bullard as well. Offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, who is not ready to announce that quarterback decision. Let's hear from him.
No reason, just hadn't decided yet. I guess more than anything. I mean, I don't think there's a certain blueprint of when you got to have it done. I think it's just when you know. And of course, you'd like to know last spring, but obviously we didn't. So I just think it's one of those things we want to give them as many opportunities as we can before we feel like we have to make a decision, and then go with it from there.
So do you believe them? Do they still not know, or have they already decided and they're just playing it out?
Trace, I'd love to be a football coach because you can just lie whenever you want. And nobody cares. You can just lie all the time, every day, just lie, and nobody cares. We're not going to call you on it. We're forget about it long enough. I suspect they know who their guy is at this point. And obviously the game plan's already beginning for South Carolina State. I think with this close to the season, whether they have told everybody or not, I assume they have, but I think they have their guy, and I think Chip's just doing a little smokescreen there.
If they really don't know, I'm starting to get pretty concerned about this whole situation because I don't think they don't know because both guys are just blowing them out of the water during practice. I think they don't know because nobody's really impressed them and taken over the job yet. So if that's really the case, I'm starting to get a little worried.
It is certainly interesting. They practice again Friday in Shells. Full pads on Saturday. That's practice number 16. Chip Lindsey saying that they're already starting to get into game prep mode with the installation, some 14 days out. Despite Brian Peterson's protestations, I asked on my Twitter, how many wins? Be realistic. What are you seeing from this Knights team at this point in camp? 10-2 is the winner on that one. Of course, high hopes for Knights fans, 11-1, 12-0, of course. This all preceding the next Sons of UCF pod when you break down game by game and Mike's ready to send them into another undefeated season. But I feel like 2 losses somewhere on that schedule seems realistic. It seems realistic to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the challenge is I can't tell you which 2 that is because of the randomness that is football, right? A ball bounces off a shoulder pad in Louisville, and that game turns on us in a heartbeat. The Navy game is not a game any of us would have said last year we were going to lose. So I can't tell you which 2 games. I think that's a fair, reasonable target to say a 10-win team, a couple of losses. While I certainly don't want that to happen, I think with the talent to go, and play well, I don't see a team in the schedule outside of Cincinnati and maybe Louisville that I really think, hey, they match up and they may be more talented than we are. But it's football, man. Random things happen. It's an oblong ball for a reason. We saw bounces last year take that we didn't think would take. So I think it's a reasonable expectation if I'm being realistic.
Yeah, I think the right expectations have come down a little bit, right? Because people like myself predict us to go undefeated every year. Now people are kind of expecting 1 or 2 losses, a loss that we don't know where it's coming from. Is it East Carolina on the road like Navy was last year? So I think we're all kind of preparing ourselves for 1 or 2 of those. It just can't be. I don't think we can afford to lose 2 in the conference because one, I don't think Houston's going to lose more than 2, and we don't play them. We're not going to have the tiebreaker. And 2, if one of those losses comes against Cincinnati or SMU, that may knock us out of the other spot in the championship game. So we got to be very careful which 2 games we lose.
Well, let's talk about the Knights and the start of the college football season with Jamie Seh, sports director, WKMG Channel 6 here in Orlando. Jamie, welcome back to the Sons of UCF Live.
Great to be with you all. Thank you for having me, Trace. Good to see you.
So maybe a boom out of Sanford Seminole High product. McLean coming over from Tampa. What do you make of that? This is Gus Malzahn saying he's going to recruit and certainly work that portal.
Yeah, I think it's great for UCF if we get the confirmation that Timmy is coming over. I mean, he was a tremendous football player for Sanford Seminole. I mean, he's got the arm talent, but he is also versatile enough that he beat teams and won a state championship with his legs. And, obviously he didn't have that home at South Florida this year after getting beat out for the starting job. So, yeah, I mean, they're not stopping recruiting, that's for sure. It's interesting, though, adding another quarterback in the mix at this point, a guy who wants to compete for a starting job. I think it's interesting. I think Timmy is a great talent, great kid, great program at Seminole High that he came out of.
Jimmy, I know you heard the conversation we were having about this upcoming season. In your mind, what's a realistic expectation for the Knights this year? The fans think 10 wins. I think Mike, Trace, and I agree. Where are you at from realistic expectations this year?
Yeah, I think 10 wins. I think anything less is a disappointment. I think they need to take a step up from last year. But, yeah, looking at their schedule, how many games they have in the state of Florida, how many games they have at their place this year. I mean, I think 10 wins is it. If I look at their schedule, I see, maybe a slip up to Louisville. That could be the home game that they lose. But, their schedule is extremely favorable. And, we'll see what Cincinnati has in store, how much they have coming back from that team. But that's a game that I can't wait for. But yeah, I say 10-2 as well.
Are you concerned?
10-2 is a good season. That's a good season.
Yeah.
Would you be concerned at all that UCF still hasn't settled on a starting quarterback? We're 2 weeks away from the start of the season. We just picked up another quarterback this afternoon. Does that say anything about the guys we have in the room?
I mean, it's definitely it's interesting, especially with the Timmy McLean stuff coming out. That they go out and get another quarterback, one who's very good and was a starter last year in the conference. I was on this, I was listening to your conversation, guys, about the quarterback job. I do think they know who they're going to start. By this time, I think they have a good idea of who they're going to start. I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Malzahn announces it like Saturday, or maybe it's a situation where, they wait till the end. So, I mean, it's South Carolina State to start with, but, some coaches are like this. I mean, we've seen those kind of battles with the Florida Gators, where we saw it, with Dylan Gabriel's freshman year with Brandon Wimbush. They know who it's going to be, but they wait. Why announce anything and tip their hand when they don't have to? Both guys could play against South Carolina State. I'm not concerned because we know what Mikey Keene was capable of last year, and he got them to 9 wins. John Rice Plumlee, seems to be a multifaceted quarterback who, has that SEC ability. So I'm not super concerned. Kind of coaching staffs are like this. I was surprised when Gus said before the season started that he hoped to have his guy after the second scrimmage, because I thought that was early, kind of looking at these other quarterback competitions that have gone on around the country, specifically with the Florida Gators. I mean, I remember when it was Jeff Driscoll versus Jacoby Brissett. And, we didn't know that it was going to be Driscoll until like 3 snaps in, because they started Brissett and Driscoll at wide receiver for the very first play. I don't remember who they were playing, but yeah, so I'm not concerned. I think they know who they have, but, I wouldn't be shocked if they wait till week 2.
Wow, till week 2. Jamie, how long have you been in the Orlando market? Decade plus, right?
Yeah, so I'm in my 12th year, so it'll be 12 years on the dot on December 28th. I started December 28th, 2010. a couple days before the Liberty Bowl. So,
you have seen this incredible transformation of UCF in the Central Florida market.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I took the job down here in November of 2010, knowing about the Orlando Magic and knowing that UCF was down here because my alma mater, Syracuse, had played UCF at least once. I remember being in the Carrier Dome when Syracuse played UCF back then. I mean, it was Central Florida. It was the Central Florida Golden Knights. It was in the early 2000s. But so I was aware of UCF. And then, when I knew I was coming down here, I started to follow the football season in 2010. So I saw I was watching the Conference USA championship game on television back home in upstate New York, saw Jeff Godfrey. And then, my first UCF game, I was here at the station, but it was the Liberty Bowl when UCF beat Georgia, and it was like, wow, that was huge. And, I know college football, I followed college football, and then I knew that was something. And then just the step it took when the Knights won the Fiesta Bowl in the 2013 season, what a special season that was, and just the build up towards that. And then, we saw the down year in 2015 and the building back up. But the fact that, you guys are talking like we no longer expect undefeated. It's ho-hum. We gotta say 10-2 and be satisfied with that. 10 wins is a great season. I mean, 10 wins is a really, really good season, but it's awesome that they've been able to kind of maintain that standard of expectation and just buzz around town. I live in Sanford. I see more black and gold license plates than I've ever seen before. I see more black and gold flags on homes. It's really awesome to see how much this has taken off. The program's taken off, and not just football, but basketball as well, how people get behind the Knights who do really, really well. So it's amazing. And I've really enjoyed it. I root for UCF. I'm not going to lie. I root for them just because they were the underdog. They're the new kid on the block, and how much this football program has been able to accomplish in a short time. Less than 25 years as a Division I program, or maybe 25 years on the dot. I'm sure the anniversary is coming up pretty soon. So that's pretty phenomenal that they've beaten that many SEC teams in that kind of time.
What are you going to do on Friday, September 2nd, when UCF volleyball hosts Syracuse in their opener? You going to be rooting for the Knights then?
Well, it's interesting. Sure. I'll be happy either way. The funny thing was, like, when I was in my 20s, I actually did play-by-play for Syracuse women's volleyball. And they had a pretty good program back then in the Big East. So, I do have an affinity for Syracuse volleyball, but that's a great question, Trace. I'll be torn, but you know what? I'll probably also be, pretty busy covering high school football that night too. So I don't know how much attention I can pay to that.
You win either way.
I do. I really respect that volleyball program too. I mean, just the championships they've won, the NCAA tournaments they've made ever since I've been here. The volleyball team has been phenomenal.
Jamie, how big a move to the Big 12 do you think this is for UCF? I mean, obviously, it's the time we're breaking through that glass ceiling. Can you put in context? You've been here a long time. What does this mean for the university and for Orlando at large now to kind of get into that quote unquote Power 5 status?
Yeah, I think it's gigantic, and we'll see how all this conference realignment plays out. Whether the Big 12 can further strengthen itself, perhaps with some Pac-12 teams. We'll see how everything shakes out. Obviously, now we're talking about tiers among the Power 5 conferences, and it's the SEC and with the Big 10 right behind them, and then kind of everybody else. But this is enormous. I mean, it's enormous. I was coming here when UCF wanted to get into the Big East. That happened a little too late for that conference, and then it turns into the American Conference. But you saw what UCF was able to do with the Big East automatic bid, that grandfathered in automatic bid. They get to the Fiesta Bowl, New Year's Six Bowl, and beat Baylor. This is huge. I mean, I think it's awesome that the state of Florida has a team in the SEC, a team in the ACC, and a team in the Big 12. And I think in terms, yes, the Big 12 is losing Oklahoma and Texas, which is huge. It's huge. But the room for growth, I think, is gigantic for the Big 12 if they can go take some Pac-12 teams. So, I mean, it's enormous. It's enormous. It's a feather in the cap for this program, how far it's come. The Big 12 wanted UCF, one of the 4 teams they wanted. I mean, it's just a feather in the cap for how far UCF has come. Because we remember, 5 years ago, the Big 12 scoffed at expansion and scoffed at adding other teams. Well, now, what UCF has done, beating Auburn in the Peach Bowl, all the things, winning all those bowl games. I mean, it's a great addition. Orlando is a great media market, so I think it's great. And people are excited. I mean, it just adds to the excitement. And we'll see how they do in the Big 12, but I think they can certainly compete with those schools.
I've heard you on the radio before with Bianchi talking about how good you are at fantasy football and all that. So if this was a UCF fantasy football draft, who would be your first pick from this team?
Isaiah Bowser. Big man Bowser. Just because he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. So I would go with Bowser, but I was at the UCF kickoff luncheon this morning or this afternoon, and, I'm seeing all the team, and I'm like, oh, wow, there's Mark Anthony Richards. He's pretty good, too. But I would start my team with Isaiah Bowser. What about you guys?
The only question I'd have about Bowser is his injury history. I might go with Ryan O'Keefe. He was the go-to guy last year. I think he can get a lot of touches every game, too.
Devontae Brown. Devontae Brown is going to be your first night off the board for the NFL draft.
Well, he said draft, not fantasy draft.
No,
You're not going to get points for
fantasy. I was thinking NFL draft. Sorry.
Yeah. Keep up, will you?
But that wide receiver room is pretty loaded. There's some good targets, but yeah, certainly Ryan O'Keefe is just dependable, big yardage, does a lot of different things, can score a lot of different ways. But I'm still going with Bowser. I think he stays healthy for most of the year.
Speaking of the NFL, Gabe Davis on your favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. What's he going to do in 22?
He's going to have a phenomenal season. The thing is that, teams are aware of him now after what he did in that playoff game with the Chiefs, the 4 touchdown catches. He's going to have a phenomenal year. But, the Bills receiving core is very good. Obviously Stephon Diggs is the number 1 target. He's going to draw a lot. Isaiah McKenzie and Gabe, but Gabe's going to be a starter this year. I think he's going to start, the majority of games. He's going to have a huge year. Every year he's worked out with Josh Allen, in the off season. He's gone out to California because I follow them, and there's no doubt in my mind that Gabe's going to have a big year as long as he stays healthy, which he has throughout his college career and his pro career so far. He's going to have a huge year. In terms of numbers, I don't know. I don't know if he hits 1,000 yards receiving or not. But I bet he has somewhere around, 700 yards or 800 yards. I don't know, just because Stephon Diggs gets so many touches. But, there's definitely room for him. Cole Beasley is out. Obviously, they play different receiver positions. But no, Gabe's going to be a huge target. You can't keep him off the field anymore.
Jamie, let's wrap up with this. UCF best team in the state, or is Miami going to be a factor out of the ACC?
Well, Tyler Van Dyke is pretty darn good, and Mario Cristobal has been talking up Miami's defense. That's an awfully good question. That is an awfully good question. Who's better? Yeah, Tyler Van Dyke is a really, really good quarterback. But no, I'll go with UCF. Why not? I don't care. Yeah, I'll go with UCF. Year 2 under Gus Malzahn. There's no adjustment, with a new coaching staff. Miami always seems to have that November swoon and everything like that. So, all right, I'll go with UCF. I predict. Okay, UCF will finish with more wins than Miami this year.
I have one more
got-
quickly for Jamie.
I got one more too. I'm gonna go first because I'm talking now, Mike. I read your bio, Jamie, and it says that you are a big Bruce Springsteen fan.
I am an enormous Bruce Springsteen fan.
Can you give us your top 3 Springsteen songs and bonus points if you want to sing one?
Oh, I'm gonna save everybody from my singing voice because it is absolutely awful. But it's funny. It's like I like them all. I like all the songs. But number 1 favorite song is "Brilliant Disguise" off the Tunnel of Love album. Probably number 2 favorite song is "Backstreets" off "Born to Run." And gosh, my number 3 favorite song by Bruce Springsteen. God, I love them all. I really do. I am gonna go with the song. It's called "Janie Needs a Shooter." And he released it kind of as a live hit way back in the 70s, but he just re-released it on his latest album, Letter to You. So I would go with those. So I would go "Brilliant Disguise," Backstreets, "Janie Needs a Shooter." So yes, I'm going to see him in Orlando in February and in Tampa too. So I can't wait.
All right, quickly. I know you saw that video of the UCF coaches dancing the other day.
Yeah.
So how good of a dancer are you, and do you have a go-to move?
Okay, I will say this. I am a way better dancer than any of those coaches. But I don't have the guts to put it on camera. So credit to them. I cannot do the worm like Coach Hand can. You know what? Like when I was a little teenager, I was kind of obnoxious, kind of like in my early teens. So I tried to mimic Michael Jackson a lot. So I'd say the moonwalk is my go-to. How about that?
Nice. Maybe we can see you do it at a tailgate or something in the future.
Perhaps. If it's a tailgate that I'm not working at, where I've had a couple.
Mike, we should invite Jamie to participate in our pick'em contest. You pick the AC games every week, and winner gets a prize that Mike never mails. So there's no pressure at all.
Wonderful. I'm in. Send me the details.
I will send you the link. Jan and Britt want to know when the barbecue is scheduled as well.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll plan it soon. How about like end of October, November, something like that, when the weather's a little bit more predictable and not quite as hot. Y'all can come to my backyard and we'll cook out. Jan and Britt, Trace, you're invited. Everybody's invited.
Sounds good. Jamie Seh, Sports Director, WKMG Channel 6 in Orlando. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks.
All right, got to invite her to the AAC Pick'em. Is UConn in this thing again, or are they out now?
I don't think so. That wasn't any part of my doing last year. It was just the pool tracker. They shouldn't be. They're not in the conference anymore. So I would say
they weren't in the conference last year.
I know,
we had to pick their games. We were involved with that anyway.
Those were free picks. Those were easy picks every week.
Let's go around the kingdom real quick. As we mentioned off the top, Knights own the Gators 3-0 in women's soccer. 54th minute goal from Kristen Scott. 77th minute goal from Dayana Martin. 82nd minute goal from Mallory Olson. Knights up next travel to Baton Rouge, face LSU Sunday at 1 o'clock. Volleyball exhibition Saturday at 7 in the venue. As mentioned, their season opener against Syracuse Friday, September 2nd at 7. They also have Kansas State, future Big 12 opponent in the UCF Challenge. Preview out now on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. Coach Dagenet and as well McKenna Melville, part of that preview. So be sure and check that out. And naming rights extension, Board of Trustees at UCF approves a 12-year, $20 million extension of naming rights for Addition Financial Arena. So Timo, again, bringing in some money of late.
Yeah, I like the continuity. I don't like changing names every 5 years when a contract ends. So I like the continuity. 12 more years of AdFi, I think we call it. So I like the continuity. I like $20 million. Nothing not to like about this.
More money, more problems. Somebody told me one time, but in this case, I think it's a good thing.
Somebody told you.
Who told you?
I like that. Somebody. We've been over this summer getting to know our friends coming in the Big 12, and we wrap up our Meet the Big 12 series by taking a look at Oklahoma State. We welcome in Marshall Scott, part of the Pistols Firing the Oklahoma State website. Marshall, thanks for being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you guys for having me. Can you hear me? Is my audio good?
Your audio's fine. Your audio's
Beautiful.
fine. What do you guys make of you losing Oklahoma, rival for you, Texas, of course, you add BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and of course, UCF. What's the reaction to this change up in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think initially it was more anger, I guess, from Oklahoma State fans that OU would go behind their back. This is what they thought. And then, do this deal without, Oklahoma State being involved. Nowadays it's kind of split. Some people want to continue Bedlam because it's tradition and things like that. And some people are like, hey, they did bad business with us. Why would we ever get back into business with them? Texas, will laugh at them all you want for losing to Kansas at home or whatever their football struggles may be, but that's always a big game for everybody. Everybody gets up for Texas just because it's such a historic program. But I think, there's a Oklahoma State fan. His name's OKC Dave, Dave Hudson. He does a fan survey every year. And last year he asked, where do you hope Oklahoma State ends whenever this conference realignment shuffle ends? And most of the people were saying literally anywhere but the Big 12. They're saying, the Big 10. They're saying the Pac-12, which is hilarious at this point. And then he did it again this year, and now people want to stay in the Big 12. The majority of the vote was actually to stay in the Big 12, and I think that goes a long way in how things stabilized with the four teams coming in. So I think it's looking up now. There's always going to be some mixed emotions when it comes to Bedlam and OU and things like that, but I think for the time being, everything's kind of looking up.
Marshall, Mike Gundy, a little crazy, no? Is he okay?
Yeah, I think a little is a bit of an understatement. We had media availability today. I'm not sure if you guys saw, but he started doing one-handed push-ups. This is like 5 minutes. It's not even the end of it where you think stuff starts to get off the rails. We started off the rails this morning. It was about 8:30 local time, and he's doing one-handed push-ups just on the ground right in front of the practice facility there. So. I think it's a little. I think the term "a little" is a bit of an understatement. He's very calculated, though. I think he comes off as, this guy's unintelligent, and I kind of think that's how he wants people to think. But almost everything he says is really calculated. I think him goofing off with us so far this preseason kind of tells you that he thinks the team's going to be pretty good this year. I think if he thought they weren't going to be very good, he'd be a little more reserved and things like that. But yeah, I think a little crazy is definitely fair. You could even move it to a lotto if you wanted to.
You guys are coming off a tough loss in that championship game last year. What's the outlook on the team this year? Are they going to rebound strong, or how's it looking?
The Big 12 is looking pretty open this year, just from a everybody's standpoint. Spencer Sanders returns at quarterback. People will have their differing opinions on Spencer Sanders. He threw 4 interceptions in that Big 12 title game, but at the same time, he basically won them the Fiesta Bowl against Notre Dame. So it looks like he had a pretty good year last year. He threw seven of his interceptions came against Baylor. And Baylor's had a really good defense. They had Dave Aranda, obviously coaching that side of the ball. So I think things are looking up. The Big 12 in general just kind of looks open. OU looks to be on a bit of an upswing. Texas always has potential. They've always got athletes. Maybe this is the year they pull it all together. Probably not, but maybe. Baylor obviously looking really good. Kansas State's kind of a sneaky team this year. So I think things are looking up. They're a little inexperienced on defense. Their defense was so good last year. But bringing in 2 new linebackers, bringing in an entirely new secondary. But on the defensive front, they're going to be stacked because they returned everybody. But I think there's room for optimism, but I think the Big 12 is going to be pretty open this year in general. So it'll kind of be interesting to see how it plays out.
Help us understand Oklahoma State. Now with Oklahoma leaving, does the fan base see maybe an easier path in the Big 12 without Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, the argument for people okay with Bedlam being dead, that's what Oklahoma State is called. It's called Bedlam. I think in a lot of ways, the viewpoint of it being dead is good for OSU to get out of Oklahoma's shadow. Oklahoma State is a perennial top 25 team. Has had a lot of 10-win seasons here as of late. But the big bad wolf, it is just an hour south of Stillwater. So I think that there's in a lot of ways, I'm sure Texas Tech feels a similar way. I'm sure Baylor feels a similar way, that, Oklahoma State kind of feels like it could be the new big bad wolf of the Big 12. I think that's kind of up for grabs right now. And Oklahoma State has, just as good a shot as anybody, I think, to kind of take that moniker over. So the argument for people being okay with Bedlam going away is that, hey, we don't have to worry about OU anymore. These 10-win seasons can actually mean something because, it could come with conference titles and things like that. So, yeah, I think, a majority of the fan base too, maybe not a majority, but a part of the fan base as well, is just always going to want that tradition. I personally grew up, the Bedlam was the biggest game of the year for me. So even though Oklahoma State lost it just about every time I watched it. But, it's kind of split 50-50. Maybe not 50-50. I think a majority of fans at this point are kind of coming around to the idea of kind of getting out of Oklahoma State's shadow, or getting out of Oklahoma's shadow.
How would you describe the composition of the state? What percentage are Oklahoma fans?
Yeah, it's much larger.
60-40?
No, I bet it's 80-20.
80-20 in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you really, if you're in most cases, if you or your family went to Oklahoma State, you're an Oklahoma State fan. If literally anything else, if maybe one of your family went to a regional college, then you're just an OU fan, just because OU is the historic program around here. It's not that case in everything, but at best 70-30, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 80-20. I went to a couple of small town schools in the state of Oklahoma, and I feel like I was outnumbered just about everywhere I went.
All right, Marshall, we're trying to get to know our new friends in the Big 12, specifically what to expect if we make trips out to these cities for games. So obviously Stillwater, a place I venture a lot of Knight fans haven't been. So I did some research. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Went to TripAdvisor. I got the top 5 places to visit in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Do you have any idea what any of these top 5 are? Can you rattle off any of what you suspect are the top 5 things to do in Stillwater?
I'm going to guess Eskimo Joe's is on there.
It's not. I don't know what that is, but it's not on here.
Okay, that's like the place to eat.
We're off to a bad start. Okay.
What kind of food? What kind of food at Eskimos?
Just like burgers and things like that. Their main thing is cheese fries. Sweet pepper bacon cheese fries. If you guys are ever in town, those are delicious. It's kind of like, I think you have to go to Eskimo Joe's once. That's kind of like the thing. But the locals, you can kind of get tired of it. But okay, my next guess would be Hideaway Pizza.
Not on here. Sorry. We're off to a great start.
Is it
These are more
Marshall's getting to
like
know Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I guess so.
More locations, if you will, not necessarily restaurants.
Okay, well, there is not a lot of locations in Stillwater.
Okay.
So
all right.
There's Boomer Lake. I don't know.
I'll read you the top 5. The Boomer Lake is number 3. Yeah, very good. Okay. Number 5, the Iron Monk Brewery.
Okay, Oklahoma State just recently had a deal with them. That's going to be the official beer partner of the university. So
that is huge.
Somewhat new, but okay.
What, have you been? What kind of beer should we try if we go there?
It's like draft stuff. I'm personally gluten free, so wheat and me don't get along. But
wheat and me don't get along.
Yeah.
Number
You'll
4,
love the gluten-free hot dogs now available in the bounce house when Oklahoma State comes to play UCF.
Number 4, Botanic Garden.
Okay, it's nice. Like you're probably going to spend an hour at most at both of these places so far, but okay, nice area.
Okay, fair enough. Number 3, Boomer Lake Park.
Okay, it's really just
another hour.
People run around it, people walk around it. I enjoy a nice jog around Boomer Lake every now and again, but it's nothing I'd take my family to or anything.
Another hour there.
Maybe.
Okay, we got 3 hours, so we're coming in maybe Saturday morning.
I can help with number 2. Number 2 is OSU Boone Pickens Stadium is number 2.
Okay, that would make sense. That's like the university is this town. Move-in day, or this classes start next week. The population of this town has doubled within the last few days, just because all the students are coming back. And
somehow number 1, Lost Creek Safari.
Okay, Lost Creek Safari. My fiance, she's in the other room right now. She loves her some Lost Creek Safari. So it's essentially a petting zoo. I'm trying to whisper because she's gonna be like, "Ooh, let's go tomorrow." It's essentially a petting zoo.
We won't tell her. It's fine.
Wild animals, lions, tigers, bears. What are we petting there? Goats,
no, it's like there's like deer. There's a camel.
One camel.
Yeah, his name is Gilbert. Same camel the whole time. I believe now an Oklahoma State wrestler actually owns Lost Creek Safari. That happened last year, I believe. So a lot of the wrestlers actually work there. There's some monkeys there. It's a fun place. You can spend more than an hour there.
So maybe come in Friday for a Saturday game, pick up the safari, end with the brewery, and you got a good Friday.
That sounds like a good time.
I want to learn more about tailgating, but I'm concerned that that Lost Creek Safari is ahead of OSU on this list of things to do. Well, does that mean the tailgating scene at Oklahoma State is not strong? What can you tell us about that?
I think the tailgating scene has grown tremendously under Mike Gundy. I personally think it's I watched you guys TCU one. He said TCU is probably among the best. I've been to every Big 12 stadium except for West Virginia. TCU is not among the best.
He said a lot of things I don't think anyone agreed with.
So I think Oklahoma State's among the best. really just all around campus. There's, tents set up from, the Friday before, all day Saturday. Some people don't even go into the game. The games are always like sold out essentially, but so it's always full around there. People got TVs, people got, barbecues going on. That one's good. Iowa State is always really good. Texas Tech's pretty good.
What's your burning couch situation like? Any of those?
No burning couches. I like I said, I haven't made it out to Morgantown. No burning couches. There is a legend that the 2011 Bedlam game, they tore down the goalposts after Oklahoma State won. There is a legend that they got those goalposts somehow out of the stadium and into Theta Pond. I haven't confirmed that. I haven't ever seen any pictures of that, but that's, I think, as close as you can get to a burning couch situation.
If they got those Lost Creek Safari, I'd be impressed.
Yeah, that's quite a ways out there.
Yeah.
All right, so we've had the chance to talk to somebody from every school in the Big 12 so far. The guys at Texas Tech don't like you guys, to be honest. Yep. And now with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, are you guys the most hated team left in the Big 12? If not, who is?
Good question. So it could be us. It could be Oklahoma State. It could be Tech. Oklahoma State and Tech don't like each other. There's a lot of, who did what first. Both teams, this is their sign, both guys. They have the horse thing. Both schools think that somebody stole something from somebody. There's not a whole lot of Baylor. Baylor's going to get mad that I said this, but Baylor is the closest thing that the Big 12 has to like Texas A&M in that it's somewhat cult-like. So there's that. But yeah, I think Texas is the obvious punching bag here, but then I want to say Texas Tech. I could see where Texas Tech would want to say Oklahoma State. But then I'd also say Baylor, which might make Baylor be the actual answer. I think more teams around the Big 12 would actually say Baylor.
When you visited Lubbock, did you check out Prairie Dog Town?
I did not. I was actually born in Lubbock, but whenever it's a ways out there. Whenever you drive out there, you just see nothing for a really long time. So every time I go out there, I'm just ready to hit my hotel, go to the game, and then go back to my hotel, and then drive back.
We're learning with these weekly chats that may be the slogan for the Big 12. You drive along while without seeing a whole lot of anything. What other sports should UCF fans know? Pretty competitive. They're going to get a good game against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, so Mike Holder, who is the athletic director, he retired a few years back. He did a great job in building facilities around. There's a new soccer stadium here. There's a brand new baseball stadium here. Softball is in the process of looks like getting a new stadium. Really nice tennis facility. So Oklahoma State is really competitive in a lot of things. Basketball, it's kind of a up and down. A lot of people believe in Mike Boynton, the basketball coach, but it just haven't necessarily turned into winning quite yet. But it's a historically great program. Baseball, really good. Wrestling is outstanding. The most national championships of any team in any sport is Oklahoma State wrestling. I wish I could rattle off the number. I think it's in the 50s. So wrestling.
Good for UCF. No wrestling program. That's a good thing for UCF.
So wrestling, outstanding. Softball has made the College World Series the past 2 times. Almost made it in the championship series this past year. Soccer teams usually a top 25 caliber team. Tennis teams are both really good. Cross country teams usually really good. Women's basketball has a new coach here, and there's a lot of excitement around her. So it really goes back to Mike Holder, just kind of finding donations to build out all these nice facilities around campus, and that's turned into good recruiting and then good products on the field, on the court, etc.
Yeah, you mentioned donors. No shortage of money there. You guys, from what I've seen, have great facilities.
Yeah, Michael and Ann Greenwood Tennis Center, they've been very generous. Cecil Obrate, he graduated from Oklahoma State. Didn't really have any ties coming back to Oklahoma State. Mike Holder just drove up to Kansas one day and got enough money to build the state-of-the-art baseball stadium, which is pretty incredible. And then obviously Team Boone Pickens, his $100-and-something million donation, which kind of kicked this whole thing off. But Boone sadly passed a couple of years ago. So yeah, there's money around. I don't think it's quite like Tech's got a lot of money around. Obviously the private schools have a good chunk of money around. So I think that's kind of gonna become an arms race in terms of NIL until some guardrails get put on this. But yeah, as far as facilities go, it seems like there's always somebody to step up to get Oklahoma State what it needs.
Marshall Scott with Pistols Firing, giving us a look at Oklahoma State. We thank you for being with us on Suns Live.
Thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Thanks, Marshall. All right, Mike. Well, there got to be a poll. I got to put out a poll or something about ranking these. Mike, are we going to see you Why do I even ask this question? We're going to see you in Stillwater anytime soon.
No.
They got botanical gardens, Mike.
I'm not a petting zoo guy to begin with at all. Anytime the kids want to go to the petting zoo, I tell their mom and my wife, you guys can go. I'll take the day off. I don't like those things. I think I was traumatized as a kid. I don't remember what happened. But that's not my
incident with a goat.
Let's go back to that.
They've got a camel named Gilbert.
Only one, though. Only one.
That's not for me. So far, of all the towns, I think Dallas, the Fort Worth guy at TCU is the only one really that I'm interested in going to.
We wrap up the Big 12 with Oklahoma State. Going to be some good battles with them. I think they've got a little bit clearer path in their minds, at least, in football. Before we open up the mailbag, want to throw in a last-minute note. Mike, I know you're all over these watch lists. Polynesian Player of the Year nominee, Lokahi Paule, the offensive lineman for UCF. One of just 85 nominees for Polynesian Player of the Year, Mike.
I have to know, how many Polynesian players are there in Division I football? Is it more than 85?
At least 85, Mike. At least 85.
I know there's at least 85. I was shocked to find out that there were 85. That seems like a high number to me. So if there's 100, couldn't they just make the list 100? I mean, what's the point of leaving out those 15 kids?
There's actually, Mike, there's 86, and one guy got really dissed.
Well, they did say in their statement that there's a chance that they could add to the list as the season goes on if you play your way onto it. And I'm thinking, which kids are not on this list already? I don't know.
Let us open up the mailbag. Which coach is on deck this week?
This is Brian Blackman, special teams coordinator, tight end coach at UCF. Let's open up the Sons of UCF mailbag.
He was right next to Herb Hand, so that raspy voice just wears off.
I got to give him credit. He hit the Dougie dance in that video. He did a decent job. I mean, I'll give him that. I was not expecting what transpired there.
That was 100,000 plus views already. That has gone viral. Any walk and talks this week?
We do have one walk and talk. I don't think I told you this, Trace, but let me cue this up now. It's our old friend Robert with a question.
Hey, boys. 2 letters, 2 words here with a question. I was having a conversation with my fellow stepson of UCF, Brian Peterson, the other day, and we were having a conversation about the schedule and what it could mean in the end. And this is what Brian said. He said, if we have enough juice in the tank in terms of picking out all our opponents, and maybe even when the games are close, when the games are close, and all the games come down to decide with all the victories, the question is, do we have enough juice to make it happen? I mean, we've got some weak schedule. We've got schools like Temple and East Carolina. And when it comes to Georgia Tech, when it comes to schools that are moving the deal in terms of the schedule, what it means, and what kind of quality of will have, it's kind of a lot of things. So the question we have to ask is, you know, we have to change Louisville, and it's just the deal with Louisville, and it's certainly kind of Houston good. But other Houston and Cincinnati in our conference, South State, no, Louisville, maybe, I should get some help. And ultimately, what we came down to is this. If, and I know it's a long way off, but if UCF were to run the table this year, does our slate of opponents give us enough juice to get in the playoffs? Just a thought, just a question. Interested to hear what you have to say. Good night. Charge on.
Brian, everybody.
I want it to be known. I did not do that edit. That's how the video was turned in. That's how it was turned in to me. I would never do that to Brian.
Oh, it's dying just now watching that.
The answer is no, unless Louisville plays out of their minds, unless Georgia Tech does something we're not expecting. No, that's not the schedule that's going to get them there. I think you guys talked about realistic, maybe top 20, top 15. Some of that's realistic, but beyond
you need Louisville to be a world beater, and you need Cincinnati to also win a couple of games, be undefeated, lose to us. You need a lot of dominoes to fall for that schedule to hold up.
At Todd A. Bryant, everyone asking the quarterback questions. His question, though, Obarski or Boomer at kicker? Ooh, a little music there. Obarski, right? He's the vet, and Boomer's been curtailed a bit during practice. Again, I think we'll see both of them, certainly in that South Carolina State game, you'd think.
Yeah, I think it's Obarski's job at this point, and maybe Colton's there if there's something misfires throughout the year. I mean, you have someone to go to at that point. To your point, Colton had been kind of banged up, so I'm sure Obarski got the majority of the reps. So I think it's Obarski at K1.
Mike, at Bonk's Realm, do we see a UCF special teams touchdown this year? Was that a question on the?
It was. Yeah. It was. You want the result?
It was. It's a question I think almost every year on this one.
And you reverse mojo now, right?
Yeah. Every year I say this is the year that's going to happen, and it hasn't happened now since 2019, when Otis Anderson in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to say no, just because I hope it does happen.
No one, right?
76% of the audience said yes.
Oh, optimistic bunch.
Well, if it does happen, is it on a return? Is it on a block kick or something like that? There's different ways.
Yeah. I am Rob 6719. Isaiah, Johnny, then who? Who's third out of the gate?
Mark Anthony Richards or RJ Harvey?
Yeah, I'd guess Richards too. But when it comes down to that too, you got to consider blocking. Blocking is a big part of playing running back, picking up blitzes, things like that. Which guy can do that best? I'd like to see him there.
All right, we shift over to the QB questions. Brian W. Peterson, he's talking about Gus. Is it the fact that we don't have a named QB1 proof that Gus may have trouble developing quarterbacks, or is he just trying to wait last moment to guarantee best man wins the job? You see what happened over in Tampa when you name a starter with some time left before your opener, and you lose a guy to the portal. I think Gus is being savvy about this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's develop as much as it's select, right? I mean, obviously Mikey was here when he got here. He brings in JRP, he brings in Tommy. So I think if you want to question anything about Gus, maybe it's quarterback selection. Everyone knocks on him for the Malik Willis, not starting him. And obviously he's an NFL quarterback, so he gets that knock. But I think there's other things to play there. So I don't know if I'm ready to say Gus can't develop QBs just yet. I agree with you, Trace. I think this is all tactical. I think it's all orchestrated, and I think there's a much bigger plan in place.
Mike, do you agree with Jamie that maybe Gus is just going to name that on Saturday? Name that quarterback on Saturday?
At this point, I'm not expecting it, but he did say he wanted to name it before the season. He didn't want to play this game. I don't think this was his plan coming into the preseason. I think he thought he was going to have a quarterback. He just is not settled on one yet. I hope he does name one on Saturday. I'd like to go this last week knowing, and I think the team really needs to know, especially if they start game planning already this week.
I like this question at Nitro's Gus Bus. What do y'all see as the floor ceiling win total if it's JRPX QB1 or Mikey? Assuming the person starts every game, which is a big assumption. You got to expect that you see both quarterbacks throughout the season. But I think that's a good question.
I mean, I think all along we've heard that we can win with both guys, right? We just said we thought they were a 10-win team. So I think for both it's 10. I think that's the ceiling, right? We think that we can win. Now we can win differently. And maybe with one quarterback or another, we may need more defensive efforts on the other side. But I think that's the same for both, right? Gus keeps telling us we have two guys we can win with. So I don't know why I'd expect them to win any different number of games. I think I think turnovers are the biggest question that you have. Who can protect the ball better? I mean, we don't know if Plumlee can throw very well. We don't know if he can complete the ball at a high percentage. So I guess Plumlee may have the lower ceiling just because of turnovers, but I think the lower floor because of turnovers, but I think the ceiling is 10 wins.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the worst this team can do, we can't lose 4 games again, right? Figured all the injuries we had last year, we talked about it 100 times. The hardest games are at home. I think 2 losses, 3 losses max is what we're looking at. And it's possible if whoever quarterback plays well, we should be favored in almost every game, if not all games. So it's possible we could win them all.
As we have recently agreed more, Mike, I've got to tell you, I think your standard that you've set that they need to get to the AAC championship game. 2017 is in that rearview mirror, farther and farther back. They need to lead this conference in that battle. Getting by Cincinnati is going to be important in that, right? If you pencil Houston in as one of those teams, UCF needs to get in that. Whether they win that game or not, that's a different matter. But I tend to agree with you. Whatever that win-loss total is, and of course, sometimes who the losses are to matters. I think they do need to get back to the AAC championship game. At Schmitty _91, Thomas Castellanos, real option at QB1, not at this time.
In 2023, maybe. I think he's clearly
battling McLean. When Mikey and JRP are gone into the portal.
I think he's clearly the future of quarterback for UCF. Look, I think my conspiracy theory here is Gus wants to make sure he knows that he's still giving Tommy a little love, that he's not forgetting about him, that he knows his place in UCF. We just saw this with Timmy McLean. Quarterbacks all over the nation are transferring these last 2 weeks because they're not getting their opportunities. I think Gus is smart to try to figure out how to manage this relationship. And one way to do that is to make sure that Tommy knows that he's his guy. I just saw them at Dave & Buster's or something the other day, right, doing some sort of a video game situation. So I think Gus is managing the relationship.
If we start off this season 3-2, maybe a loss to to Louisville, maybe a loss to SMU early, and neither one of Mikey or JRP has taken the reins. Why not Tommy Castellanos at this point? I heard Chip Lindsey today in his press conference saying similar things I heard about Mackenzie Milton when he was a freshman. He makes one or two plays in practice that people kind of say, wow, where did that come from? Yeah, he doesn't know the playbook as well, but, he's had this fall camp now. He has those first 5 weeks to kind of get a little more acclimated, and he's that good. Why not at this point?
At Ethan of 126, what would the record be for each member of the Suns if they were named starting quarterback? Who would have the best record? What would be each person's best quality? I, of course, would be the game manager. Steady Eddie. Mike he'd be turnover prone. He'd be a little wild in his approach. So I think I'm the reliable starter.
Now I've got the record would be GOL level. I think we'd all be in big trouble. Here's what we got. Mike would be a running quarterback. We know his 5K prowess, so Mike would be a running quarterback. Trace, my friends, would be the elusive quarterback. I got to tell you, people, if you haven't seen Trace at a live event, I had a chance to go to FanFest this weekend and saw Trace walking around with the camera, recording a bunch of stuff. This man was in more parts of that arena than I think anybody else. He moves quickly. He dodges people. He took a couple of hits. He got back up. He was undaunted. So Mike is the running quarterback. Trace is elusive, but they don't win a game.
I can't throw anymore. I throw softballs with my daughters at practice. My arm is shot from all those years of playing baseball, so throwing's out for me. If we need a throwing quarterback, I think Adam's probably got the better arm of all of us right now. I can't see Trace as a quarterback right now. To be honest, Trace, you can play quarterback in this system. Are you dual threat? What's your strength?
This is coming from the guy who hits home runs off 12-year-olds. But let's move along. Eric Lopez, ELO, which non-football UCF fall sport would the three of you go to, if you could? Volleyball, men's soccer, women's soccer. I believe volleyball has a match before that Louisville game, if I'm not mistaken. So that may be an opportunity for us there.
I'll take the cheap way out of this. I'll take my my 15-year-old daughter who plays soccer to a women's soccer game. So I'll take the easy way out.
In this weather, in the heat, give me the indoor, give me volleyball, just so I can hang out in there with some AC. But to be honest, I'm probably not watching any of it.
At UCF Knights Watch, we used to slug it out with ECU. How satisfied should we be that this might be the last time facing them for the foreseeable future? Or should we mourn the loss of the old rival born out of competition instead of geography? I think it's going to be interesting to see if any of these AAC schools end up on future UCF schedules, certainly in football, but you'd think in the other sports. That's a tough one with ECU. I know for a certain period of time, and Mike, you talked about this, rivalries come and go, right? So the Cows rivalry may be falling, but ECU, that's another one. It was heated there for a while, and it is really kind of gone by the wayside of late.
I think we've played ECU more times than any other school, maybe Bethune more, but of all Division I schools, we played East Carolina for a long time now, going back to Conference USA. There was a time where we couldn't beat those guys. I hated them. In that 2005, I still have nightmares about Chris Johnson in 2007 running all over us, returning kicks. So I know it's been one-sided the last 8 years, whatever it's been, but I'm not really going to miss them. The Hale Perriman is a classic game in UCF history, so we've had our good moments. We've had some bad ones. It is what it is. If their fan base was as rabid now as it was in the early 2000s, maybe I'd miss it a little bit more, but they've kind of soured the last few years.
Well, they've got 10-year veteran quarterback Holt Naylor's back, and that may be a tricky road game for UCF. Adam at Statboy Drew, who did not win the AAC Pick'em. Let's all agree on that, shall we? A little bit of revisionist history. Got to be questioning the facts over there at the Banneret. With the return of the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl, which bowl game has the best sponsor?
Shots fired. Give me the Cheez-It Bowl.
Cheez-It.
Yeah.
I like that.
I forgot to research this one. Give me Jimmy Kimmel, because that's the only one I can think of right now.
Speaking of California, Wanda AB_MUA. It'd be a dream to see UCF the College Football Playoff National Championship in Los Angeles. A girl can dream, right? What are the odds? 0.00%.
The same odds as one of the three of us being the starting quarterback. I think it's about the same.
We need about every team to have 4 or 5 losses ahead of us.
Even then. Mississippi State makes the top 25 every year with 4 or 5 losses. So even then, at UCF football, amazing ambassador Mackenzie Milton, Mission Control, of course. They need a hoops ambassador. Who should that be? BJ Taylor, local guy.
Yeah,
he'd be tremendous in that role.
Obvious answer is BJ. If you want to go off the board, I got 2 for it. I got Chad Brown, or give me some Marcus Jordan.
Yeah, I would say BJ too, but Taco, and when he's done playing, he'd be a great ambassador and representation for UCF.
And by C.A. Simmons, thoughts on using an Olive Garden breadstick as a hot dog bun? And does that make it a sandwich? That I threw in.
Yeah, I would defer all hot dog related questions to our hot dog expert here, Mr. UCF Mike.
Hot dog expert.
Olive Garden or whatever. Sometimes you don't have an actual bun. You got to use just a slice of bread. Whatever you got to do, you got to do. Sure, I guess it makes it a hot dog.
Real shortage of bread down there in real South Florida.
You never had a hot dog with just a slice of bread because you didn't have any buns? Of course you have. Never in your life.
Would you go with
they sell the buns like 8 packs and they sell the hot dogs in like 12 packs and you're always kind of mixed up. So eventually sometimes it doesn't work out and you have a slice of bread, you want a hot dog and you throw it on there.
It's a hot pocket.
So yes on hot pocket. Yes on an Olive Garden breadstick. Would you try it?
I'll try anything. I'll try that Jell-O egg shot that Adam sent the picture of today.
Wow, what are you doing with there, Mike? Jeez.
Why not? Why not? Don't knock it till you try it.
Why do you bring Jell-O shots for the tailgate, one of these upcoming tailgates?
Because I have never made Jell-O shots in my life.
It's Jell-O.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't think I've ever made Jell-O.
And liquor. I mean, there you go.
They'll be very strong if I make them. 2, I'm not bringing them up to Orlando. Then I gotta take care of them all the way up there 3 hours, and then maybe the FAU game, but that's probably not going to happen either. If there was a chance,
that's right there. You can't make them 10 miles from your house to the FAU stadium with Jell-O.
I could. But then how many do I have to make? That seems like I got to do them the night before. I'm not even going to be in town the night before. It's just not going to happen.
Would our beer be referencing Oklahoma State as an official beer? I'm lobbying for the IPA. I know the two of you will not, so we'll have a little division.
Anti-IPA. Give me a nice wheat beer. Wheat.
Where did this come from, Trace? You know I like IPAs. We agreed that the High Life is both of our favorite beers right now. I don't know why you keep saying I don't like IPAs.
I just lump you in.
But,
because you're a naysayer. You're anti-Jell-O shots. You're anti-potato salad.
I'm not anti-Jell-O shots. I'm anti-making Jell-O shots. I'll drink them. I'll eat them. I just don't want to do the work.
Is it drink or eat? That's a great question.
Yeah, it depends on how solid they are, I guess.
Is this something Gordon and partners might want to invest in for the FAU tailgate? Is that something that they'd
look? We should be happy if they're on the show next week, Trace. At this point, I don't think we should push any buttons on this one at this point.
Can you get highlight down there, or is that just up in this area?
No, I get highlight all the time at Publix. It's everywhere.
Why don't you bring? Here. How about bring that to the FAU tailgate?
I could do that. Okay. I'll bring a bunch of. Are you going to be at the FAU?
Yeah.
All right. Because we just bought our tickets a couple of days ago.
Now that I know you're going to be there, because you were wishy-washy up until the last week or so. Now I'm definitely.
No, I'm definitely in there.
Anti-effort's the best way I've ever heard Mike described in my life.
Robert and Mike getting back and forth on research before a show, during the show,
Well, this past episode on Monday, Adam told me to pick a song that described UCF. I had a whole page of notes I had my top 5 list of songs, and then when we were done with that segment, I said, that's all the notes I have for tonight, so let's keep rolling with the show. That's about all I had.
You said that on the show. We all know that.
It was an entertaining preseason Sunnies episode 192 of the pod this week.
Yeah, we enjoy the preseason Sunnies every year. We started this the first year of the show. First, it was just Mike and I handing out our awards per se. Then we open it up on a survey. The fun part about the Sunnies is not revealing these answers now. It's looking back at them after the season and realizing how foolish every year. My favorite was the year I think we all had Brandon Wimbush as like the MVP of the team in 2019. So it's always fun to look back at these and realize how much we don't know about anything. Probably because the coaches just lie to us, by the way, Trace. They just lie all the time. Just lie.
Who were your breakout players? Who did you select? Is that the Marlon Williams breakout player?
Yeah, Marlon Williams was like a 3 year in a row. This year, the offensive breakout player, wait for it, hold please, was Mark Anthony Richards was voted offensive. I don't know if I agree with that. Defensive, Tremont Morris Brash.
Favorites, right? Some favorites in there.
Yeah, I don't know if I had those on my board.
I forget who I voted for, but I'm pretty sure Seliskar was my defensive guy. Even though was he even one of the options? I don't even know.
I asked Mike on Twitter if I could vote, and I got a big no, so I did not vote after the whole AAC preseason poll debacle. I withheld my vote from the Sunnies.
That's good. I don't remember you asking me, but if you did ask me, I would have said no.
I asked you on Twitter, and you went no. You said
Right.
no, so I didn't vote. I took it officially as a no, and I did not vote. I want to thank,
You've asked Mike anything on Twitter, you're going to get negative answers. So that would mean just temper your expectations off the bat.
I want to thank Jamie Seh, WKMG Local 6, for joining us off the top of the show.
Thanks, Jamie.
And, Marshall Scott with Pistols Firing for wrapping up our places we may not be visiting series in Meet the Big 12. We may put that out as a poll on which cities people want to vote on. And before we end with a player wrapping up the show, Godspeed, Lynn Cheek. Happy to have been part of that special celebration of your life, candlelight vigil out at the Reflecting Pond last night. Godspeed, Lynn. For Adam and Mike, I'm Trey Strolko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
I'm Quadra Bullard, and thanks for watching the Sons of UCF.